Hey guys, Nick Biddle here coming at you with this week's Drip, and this week I'm still in the studio for a couple of reasons. The biggest one, it's just too dadgum hot to be outside. This last week here in Oklahoma, it's been over 100 degrees, and there's been about a 40-mile-an-hour wind, which is basically, it's like you're standing in front of a hairdryer every single day when you go outside. But today, the weatherman gave us a 5% chance of rain. And so if you've ever had a 5% chance of rain, that really means it's not going to rain at all. And, you know, sometimes I'd like to take somebody that gives you false hope and just whip them with a rubber hose. But I'm told that's not really the appropriate thing to do. But I told you last week that I would tell you a quick little story about conflict. And, guys, this isn't a great, big conflict. But a lot of times it's these little things that people say, these little jabs that they give you that can turn into something. They can fester into something. And I've got a neighbor in Corn, Oklahoma, and this guy, he's a great guy, but he's just one of these old men that's always right. And where we are at in Corn, Oklahoma, we're getting ready to build a house. And I just had a water meter installed, and I'm trying to get some grass established where we've built the pad up so it quits washing as bad. And my neighbor came out, and he said, well, you need to time how long you run your water so that you know how many gallons you're using per hour. And I'm like, I couldn't care less. But, hey, that's what he wants to do, great. So I set the timer, and I timed it for 2 hours. And, of course, he wanted to know, well, how many gallons were you pumping? And I said, well, here's what the meter said. And he said, well, that's wrong. You don't know how to read a meter. Now, I could say, who the heck do you think you are? I know how to read a meter. I can do simple math. But if you think about our series on conflict, what's that going to get me? It's just going to get me in a head-to-head argument with an old man, and I'm not going to convince him that he's ever wrong. So what did I do? I said, you know, you're probably right. It probably is my mistake. He didn't know what to do. He's like, well, I mean, it may not be wrong. He said the meter might be wrong. He said you might need to get the town out there and have them check the meter. But he said there's no way you're pumping that much water through that hose. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. It's probably my mistake. Now, the important thing is I really don't care how much water's going through my hose. He does, but I don't. He said, well, you need to test it for another hour. I'm like, okay. So I read the meter off and timed it for another hour, and he said, I'm going to do the same with mine. So he went and turned his water hose on for an hour, and he checked his meter. Hour later, I get a text. He said, well, your meter may not be wrong. Now, clearly, my math was right. He was wrong. But if I'd have just argued with him, told him, you're a stupid old man, or you're stubborn, or you can't count, or how dare you challenge me on my ability to read a meter, all this petty stuff, all that would have done is just drive a wedge. And as soon as I just agreed with him, it diffused the situation. Now, it wasn't a big issue, but you're going to run into 100 situations like that each and every week where you have a choice to stand firm and prove that you're right or diffuse the situation. And I want to challenge you to take the high road, the road less traveled, and diffuse the situation. And if it makes sense, just agree with them. Yeah, I can't read a meter. That's all right. Guys, hope you're doing great. Until next time, take care.